Hey y'all, I'm back finally. I don't know how it's been like over a month since I've streamed, but somehow we're here. I'm just gonna hang out and gonna be doing a um, figure painting stream, which is something a little bit different. Last time I was doing a lot of figure drawing. Then I started doing some figure painting and realizing that those skills were falling behind the drawing skills. So looping back around and working on the painting skills now. So yeah, if you have any questions as I'm doing this, feel free to ask. Try to message me, um, as in like mention my name or whatever, so that I can actually see it in the chat. I probably won't see everything, so that would help. So yeah, I'm gonna switch to streaming. I haven't actually done one of these recorded. Yeah, not even recorded yet. So this will be an interesting experience today. Um, yeah, uh, obviously the drawing is. I was starting to get fairly comfortable with it, but then the painting I realized is just a whole lot of other challenges that you're dealing with, and it's been fun to learn how to do those and figure that stuff out. It's a little bit different trying to exaggerate and simplify forms in 3D with color and lighting rather than just trying to do the line drawing stuff. I'm more comfortable in general as a painter, but I was definitely getting to the point where I had done a lot of figure drawing for a while there, and not a lot of painting, and I noticed myself kind of falling behind on the painting skills. One thing I'm really trying to do is push my stylization. Sometimes I don't like how painfully realistic my stuff can be. I get way too literal with stuff, and so that's something I'm trying to break out of. Still life day. Yeah, still lives would be a lot of fun, kind of. I really hate doing still lives. Um, they're just not. I don't know. They never interested me. I did them, but um, they were never that exciting for me. And I'm a big proponent that you should do studies and stuff that really excite you. And they just did not excite me. I get the value of them, and I encourage people to do them, and I'm glad whenever I do them. But I don't know. I try to put them off as much as I possibly can. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing any backgrounds today. I generally do, obviously, being an environment artist. Um, but these days I'm working on my figures more than my environments. And I'm having a lot of fun with it still. It's nice to do something so different after, a decade of doing environments. I'm also going to be like switching programs today. I found that I still really like drawing in Clip Studio Paint here, but as far as the painting goes, I'm still much more comfortable painting in Photoshop. So I'm going to switch to Photoshop when I get to the painting stage. Obviously, with knowing that I'm going to be painting these, I don't have to get the line drawing looking quite as nice. I still try to get it to look pretty decent, but I don't have to make the lines look quite as pretty because I'm going to be painting out most of them. What is my thought process? Obviously for a study, it's not quite as intensive of a thought process as like working on an imaginative piece, because a lot of the answers are already there. But I guess it's looking at the pose and looking at, all right, what is it about it that I want to capture, and what do I want to exaggerate, and what do I kind of want the end result to feel like? And that's kind of more the thought process for something like this. Where can I exaggerate stuff? Where can I make things more simplified? It's my workout routine. It's been really hard for me to keep a routine training at home, and what your trick is to always stay thin. I'm really bad at working out at home too. That's something I've always noticed. Anytime I've tried like home workout stuff, like when the gym's closed, I really, really struggled with it. It's something that's never come easy for me. I have a much easier time sticking with a routine when I get to go to a gym. That said, it's obviously I try to make it a habit, as in it's not a question of whether I go to the gym. It's something I do. If you have to decide to do something every day or most days, you're not going to decide to do it that often, and you're going to struggle with it every time. But if it's just what you do, then it's a little bit easier too. So that's helped. As far as how to stay thin, I can't say I have any secret, and actually it's a lot of hard work a lot of the time. I really like food, I really like eating, and it takes a lot of kind of strict attention to what I'm eating to lose weight and do any of the cutting phases I've got to do. It's really hard for me, but I find that the only reliable way for me to do that is to count calories, and that usually does the trick. If I count calories and I keep things really strict, that I can lose weight when I need to, and then obviously bulking is no struggle for me. I enjoy food far too much for that. Noah, do you think it is better to dedicate the study to the gesture and then to scenarios, or to study both at the same time? I'd say a bit of both. Like putting a figure into environments is extremely important and not particularly easy. And so I think there's a lot of value in that, and it takes a lot of time to learn everything. So yeah, I think everything has its place, basically. Put time into studying just about anything. I tend to do best when I go through phases. So I'll go through phases where I'm like studying characters like crazy, like right now. And then I'll go through other phases where I'm doing something else. And that seems to be what works best for me. So yeah, find out what kind of works best for you. what gets you inspired and working hard, and go with that. I find that learning art is a lot less complicated than people try to make it out to be. Art is really something that doesn't have a lot of quick tricks to it. It takes a long time to learn, and that's the simple truth. Anybody saying that, oh, it doesn't take that long is probably lying to you. It takes a long time, and it's pretty difficult. It's very doable, but I can't say it's particularly easy. Struggling a little bit with the drawing today, which I blame on the fact that I haven't demoed one of these before. Actually, I already did a couple of these studies today. So I should be all warmed up and good, but definitely having a slightly harder time with these than it was earlier. But that happens. We'll get there. It's also nice knowing I can fix a lot of stuff in the painting. You started painting in oils, but you don't like having to wait a week to continue it? Yeah, that's definitely a problem with oils. The way I got around that is I switched the medium I use. If you try using Liquin, for instance, Liquin's great, as in it will be perfectly dry the day after you work on it. Like dry to the touch. So that was a fairly significant game changer for me with oil paintings, because people think that you have to wait, forever for things to dry, but you really don't. And I personally really liked the consistency of Liquin, and so I did most of my work using Liquin because I really, really enjoyed it. And getting to paint a fresh layer on it every day was pretty great. So yeah, if you've never tried Liquin or any of the other ones, go ahead and try that. It's super easy. You just mix a little bit in with all your paint, and boom, done. think I've just about got this to a place where I'm ready to bring it into Photoshop, start painting it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move it on over to Photoshop. So I'm gonna move some stuff around. I will be right back. All right, and we're back on my other monitor. Because that's the other thing, is I don't like painting on a Cintiq quite as much as I like painting on a Wacom. So I'm back on my other computer, or other monitor rather. One thing I don't see people do enough of when they start painting is working on toned backgrounds. I don't know why people don't do that, but it's way easier. Painting on a white background is an absolute nightmare for color and values and everything else. So if you want to make your whole life way easier, just work on a toned background of pretty much any color. Super crazy saturated stuff might be really hard, or really dark stuff might have some problems, but yeah, pretty much any toned background is better than white. I'm just going to start by blocking in some general colors here underneath the lines, and then once I get them kind of where I want them to be, then I'll actually just start painting on one layer on top of everything, and that's kind of how I'll go forward. Move this mic over a little bit. There we go. Make sure you guys can hear me. Hey, I've been working on my portfolio for a time now. I'm a beginner artist and have never done a commission or got the opportunity yet. Do you have any advice about getting those? The first commissions are pretty hard. They're pretty hard to find. For the most part, when you kind of get to a skill level where people are going to want to hire you, you're going to start getting offers. And it's going to quickly go from getting no offers to getting more than you ever want to do. That said, you can push things like a little bit. You can start telling people that you're offering them, and that tends to work pretty well, because then that at least gets people kind of in the mindset of thinking like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe I can hire this person to do something that I had in mind. So mentioning it is good. And then just posting your work a lot. Also going into communities that hire a lot of stuff. So for instance, like the D&D community, that's one that hires a fair bit of art because everybody's got their own character and they want to see some paintings of their characters. And that's not exactly something you can just, come up with. They often have very unique characters and they want something original of them. And so that's a good source to find kind of beginning commissions. They often don't have a ton of money, so they're not going to be hiring the super expensive professionals. So that's a place you can get them kind of as a beginner, getting commissions. But the first ones do tend to be kind of hard to come by, and you need some people to sort of take a chance on you. I also suggest for practice sometimes doing free work. I in fact like free work a lot better than cheap work. Cheap work I think is kind of demeaning and pretty miserable to do, but free work actually is kind of nice, because free work you still have a fair bit of control. You're actively doing someone a favor by doing it for free, and everyone knows that you're doing it to build your portfolio and get the experience, and it can be a really fun thing, and you can get used to the experience of working with someone, and it can often lend itself to a portfolio that can get you more jobs that are fairly similar to it. So that's another thing to at least consider. Can I share the current brush set? No, not yet. This is actually a brush set that I am making, and it's not done yet, but I like how it's going so far. So yeah, I'm going to be using all my own brushes today, and I quite like them. I've been pretty impressed so far with how they've been turning out, and I'm really excited to share them. I think they're going to be really useful, and people are going to really like them. So when that's ready, I will be sharing that, but not quite yet. All right, so now that I've got it kind of at this point, I'm gonna change the color of some of the lines to make them a little bit lighter. It's gonna be a little bit easier to work into if I do that. Just going to lock transparency on that layer and then work into a few areas. And then I kind of don't have to paint out the really, really dark, like black outlines on things quite as much by doing this. So it just saves me a little bit of effort later. And then I'm going to copy all of it, put it onto a new layer, and start painting into it just as a one layer piece. I have a much easier time working on it that way than working on a bunch of different layers. All right. So yeah, now we're on one layer, and now I get to paint. And I really want to try to get her kind of skin tone. She has these really nice kind of pale highlights, and then these kind of pink-red undertones in her skin that are really nice. And I want to make sure that I'm capturing that. Flesh tones are just really fun to paint, and you can get so much variety in there. And it's really a fun thing to paint. It's one of my favorite things about painting figures is getting to do all those flesh tones. There's just so much variety in there. I really look like Uhtred of Bebbanburg. Cool. I have no idea who that is. So now that I'm kind of in painting mode, I'm going to do what I can to simplify out some of those shapes that I was getting while I was drawing this. This is also when I start to think about form and lighting and what's the most important thing and what's this going to end up looking like. What do I want to come forward? What do I want to push back? What do I want to be really subtle in the end? And what do I want to really exaggerate the lighting on? So there, even though I'm working from reference, there's a lot of ways to paint this thing. Like if you give this same piece of reference to 100 different artists, they're going to have 100 different ways of representing it. And that's where a lot of the art comes in. And so even though you're doing a study, you want to be thinking about, well, what am I trying to do with this? And what do I want to do to it? What do I think is the best way to represent this thing? So don't ever get in the kind of complacent mindset of just copying something, because we're not just trying to copy something. We're really trying to look at it and think about what we want to do with it. I'm going to take care of the face later on, but I at least want to imply a couple things up there. I know some people say to really start with the head shape in like drawing and stuff, and I'm really bad at doing that. I always find that I make the head like the wrong size, the wrong shape, wrong place, like everything about it. Whereas if I do the head kind of last, I have an easy time kind of fudging it around and getting it right. So, I don't know, sometimes the standard advice doesn't always work. I think it's okay to find what works for you. How many of these do you usually do? Well, the figure painting studies are relatively new, so I think this is number 14, based on the file. So I haven't done too many of these. Obviously, over the years, I've painted a lot of figures, but for a while there, I was doing the figure drawings, and I racked up probably, what was it, 200 or 300, something like that. So I did quite a few of those, and at some point, I'll get back to the just straight up drawing. I think once I find that my painting skills again surpass my drawing skills, I think I'll loop back around and do some more painting. Or I'll think about all the other things that I want to practice. I'll think about maybe working on my portraiture, working on my hands and feet, working on my whatever else. Maybe even going back and working on environments. So I think it's just a case of there's always something that you're going to want to work on, and whatever that happens to be at the time. But yeah, I don't have a set number of these that I'm looking to do. Maybe 100. 100 seems pretty good. I feel like after another 86 of these, I'll start to feel pretty good about them. But I guess time will tell. They obviously take a lot longer than the figure drawings I was doing. The figure drawings were 10 minutes usually, maybe 20 minutes. So they didn't take quite as long, whereas these are taking anywhere from maybe an hour to 2 hours. So, and I'm a little bit slower when I'm talking at the same time, rather than just purely concentrating. But you're at least seeing pretty close to the speed that I'm doing on my own. This is kind of a awkward stage where it's not quite working, it's not quite got the form I want, it's not quite the colors I want, and nothing's exactly where I want it. And so you just got to keep pushing through that stage, because it always happens every single time. There's got to be one stage that's kind of like this, where it's just not quite what I'm looking for. How meticulously did I study anatomy? In some ways a lot, in some ways not very much. I think there's a lot of anatomy that you can kind of brush over. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in the wrong things. They get wrapped up in the technicalities too much, and memorizing names of stuff. I know some of the general names, but I can't say that I know every single one. But you don't necessarily need to know all of that. I'd say that learning the forms is more important than learning specific anatomy. I think if you can get the gesture and the forms right, that you can figure out the really specific anatomy later. And that's probably a better way to go about it. I want to study it to utilize it in concept art, but I don't want to be a figurative artist and wonder how far I should push it. Again, I'd focus on the forms and gesture most of all. I would caution you against knowing what you do or don't want to do later on. Like you don't really know. Like there's probably gonna come a time down the road where maybe you do want to be a figurative artist, and you're not gonna regret learning things and improving skills. So, well, yeah, you can't learn everything. You also don't want to like slack off on things just because you don't think you're going to use them. I think a lot of people do that and end up kind of in trouble later on down the road. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing now, is sort of playing catch up for all the time that I wasn't studying figures. And, you know, this would have been hard to do a year ago, but now I've got the time for it. In case you're wondering why I'm not getting the rim light in there yet, I've been finding that I like the results a little bit better if I hold off on doing the rim light until a little bit later. It's too easy to make rim light look good, I find, and I don't want it to make the rest of the figure look good too soon. You know, that sounds weird. But yeah, I find that if I get the lighting looking too nice with the rim light too soon, then I'm less inclined to get the forms and anatomy just right on everything else. Yeah. So it's partially a personal thing where my lighting skills tend to be a lot better than the rest of my painting skills. And so I'm really concerned about getting good form in these. And I don't want to lean too heavily on lighting too soon. Oh, and if anybody's curious about where the reference is from, you can see the link in the description of this video. But it's from reference.pictures. And there's a bunch of free reference on there too if you don't feel like paying for reference. One color people don't use nearly enough of in figure paintings is gray. Gray is super nice and can make other colors just stand out and lets you get away with so much with color. So don't forget to use gray. Graying out a color is a pretty fantastic trick. Hey, I'm good. I don't know if that's a inside reference that I'm learning Spanish, but I am learning Spanish. Slowly but surely. Um, I started, I took a 1 semester of Spanish back in college, like 15 years ago or something like that. And despite the fact that I've traveled to quite a number of Spanish-speaking countries at this point, I just do not speak Spanish. And I thought that was a real shame. I was like, I'm gonna go to a lot more Spanish-speaking countries throughout my life, and it is a real shame if I cannot communicate in their native language at all for the rest of my life. And so we started learning Spanish recently, and it's been really fun. Nice having somebody to do it with. I find that helps a lot. Yeah, it's been good. Very slow. It's gonna take me a long time. I'm not. I don't know if there are people like naturally ingrained for languages. I'm not one of them. But at least I've got like motivation to do it now. I think that's the difference between taking it like in college versus just studying on my own now, is that I actually want to learn it as opposed to I have to do it so I can pass a stupid class. So I think it's a bit better. Maybe I can get good enough at Spanish that I can do some Spanish language tutorials. That'd be fun. God, I just had like a nightmare flash of like, what would it be like to try to stream in only Spanish? And oh man, I would have to get very good. Or I would just like stare dumb face at the camera the whole time. Which I guess maybe would work. Trying to learn English, like that's something that learning Spanish is making me appreciate even more, is how annoying English is. Like I feel for everyone who has to learn it as a second language. I'm like, we have all these dumb rules and arbitrary spelling and pronunciation that makes no sense. And yeah, you just gotta learn it. And I feel for you. I could not imagine learning it as a second language. I'm so glad I get to learn Spanish as a second language and not English. Because, oh man. Yeah, also anytime I'm like doing the Duolingo and it's asking me to like type the Spanish sentence in English, I'm like, there's like a dozen ways I could rearrange these exact same words, and they all have slightly different like implications in English. I'm like, is that's gotta be a pain to learn. So yeah, I have a lot of A lot of empathy for anyone who learns English as a second language. Another thing I'm trying to do with some of these figure painting studies is figure out exactly what kind of style I want to have. That's why like there's going to be some line art in some places, and then other places with no line art. Some places maybe with some lost edges, some with really clearly defined line art edges. And that's all just a bit of exploration of me trying to figure out what is it that I want my figure paintings to look like. And I think it's a good thing to think about. Like I actually went and gathered a bunch of inspiration and reference of figure paintings that I really like and I would like to paint like. Because obviously there's a lot of figure paintings that I like, a lot of figurative artists that I really enjoy their work, and I just have no interest in working like them. Just, you know, for no particular reason. It's just not, it doesn't appeal to me to work like that. And whereas there's other ones that I'm like, yeah, that's got a little something that I really like, or I want to do that part about their art. And it could just be like one individual thing. Like maybe I really like the colors of some artist, and I wouldn't mind if I got to steal some of their some of the way that they use color on figures. Or maybe I really like how somebody does gesture, and I really want to get some of that into my work. And so I'd encourage you, if you don't know exactly what you want your paintings to look like, to really nail it down and figure that out. You're gonna have a much easier time hitting that style if you actually know what you're looking for. And obviously you won't know entirely ahead of time. Some of that's going to come like as you're doing it. Oh yeah. Yeah, English is just an absolute mess. And like we all butcher the pronunciation of everything. You listen to an actual like native English speaker and we're just not pronouncing half the words or letters, even though you're supposed to. And then you get like regional accents and like, I mean, I'm in the South here. Most people not from the South can't even understand like what a deep Southern accent is even saying. So I don't know how people that are learning the language are supposed to understand like all these different accents. And yeah. Do I color my outlines at the end or getting rid of them? A little bit of both. I am coloring some of them, I am leaving some of them, and I am painting some of them out. So yeah, trying to do a mix. So trying to figure out where they're most beneficial, where I really like the effect they're giving me, and then in other areas letting it just kind of fade into pure painting. Yeah, there's a bit of a tangent there. Not sure what I want to do about that. Yeah, see what I can do. Brad, yeah, thank you. Yeah, things are going quite well. Glad you like this. Having fun with things. It's a good time. It's nice being able to do stuff like this. Something very meditative about it, and it's just nice. And getting to do all this stylized work is just a lot of fun. Like I've spent so many years doing really realistic, tight work, and it's nice to get to change that up a little bit. I'm really sad it's not more common or acceptable to do that, like as a working professional. Like it's expected that you kind of keep doing the same work, and it's even expected like on social media. Like social media hates when people do different stuff. The moment you try to change your style or do something slightly different than you're known for, like nobody cares about it. You get like unfollowed, and nobody responds to it. And like I even had to move my studies onto a different page on Instagram just because I found that mixing those in with my finished work caused people to be less responsive on everything, which is just insane. But there's also a kind of a stigma against professionals learning, which I think is really stupid. There's this kind of expectation of judging professionals extra harshly when they're trying to learn something, because you're used to seeing them like really good at the one thing, and then they try to switch that up with something different, and suddenly people are hypercritical of like every little flaw and mistake. So I think it's really sad, and I wish it was a little bit more accepted to learn new stuff, to try new things, and for that to be okay. But I don't know, there's definitely a stigma against it, and that's always bothered me. So a lot of times I've had to keep, like in the past, my studies to myself, just because like I knew they weren't quite as good yet as some of my other work, and so rather than deal with all the backlash and hate that you get from doing work that's slightly different, I just kept a lot of stuff to myself. Obviously now I care a lot less about that, but oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the challenge. I think it's going to be really fun. I am hoping to do some stuff for it. I haven't done like a kind of challenge like that with a theme in a long time, and I think it'd be a lot of fun to even just start on some stuff. Even if I don't actually have time to end up finishing it, even just starting would be a lot of fun. Oh, and if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, in my paid Discord server, I'm doing a monthly challenge right now, and there's a reward for the top piece. I'm going to give out a copy of either Art Camp or a bunch of stuff from Reference Pictures. So you have to be part of the Discord to be able to do it. But you have a month. The deadline for the piece isn't in a month. So if you're interested and want to get involved, you can head to the link in the description of this video and come hang out with us. It is a very friendly, supportive community, which is quite nice. So this is finally starting to get somewhere that I kind of like it. I'm starting to like some of the form that's happening in the hip area, and that was a really big focal point for me in this pose. Is I really liked um, how her kind of hips were tilted back, and then how her legs came out of that, and that's something I really wanted to capture. Kind of going back to what we started talking about here, of you got to figure out what it is about a pose that you really like and you want to get in your final piece. So now I'm going to see if I can get some of that same chunky form going down here in the legs. It's been really interesting trying to interpret reference more than copy it recently. As my work has been less realistic in these studies, it's been interesting kind of picking and choosing what parts of the reference I'm like, all right, I'll use that, and then other parts that I'll just ignore because I think I can make something that expresses the form maybe better or looks more interesting, and that's been an interesting experience. I'm spending quite a while on this one, so I probably will just do the one piece today. Am I painting in one layer or multiple? I'm just painting on one layer. Yeah, all of this is on one layer. When I started out, I was painting under some of the line art, but now I'm just working on one. Part of that comes from my traditional painting background. I'm just used to working kind of back and forth on a piece. It's just a little bit more comfortable for me. Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back making stuff and making content and posting it and getting it out there. It was a bummer to be gone so long, but I feel like I'm in a better place now. I feel a lot happier, more contented than I was before, and I really like what I'm doing. I get to paint what I want to paint, and I kind of like some of the results now. And I get to spend a lot more time learning now, which is great, because I've realized that learning is a big part of what I really like about art. It's not always the finished stuff that is the most satisfying for me. The learning stage is a big part of what I like about art. So that's been a lot of fun to get back to. Really remember why I even became an artist in the first place. It's kind of easy to lose track of that when it becomes a job. Another thing that's really easy for me to do, and probably everyone, is to get really focused on the area I'm painting in and lose sight of how it reads in relation to the whole figure. So that's another thing that I try to do fairly often, is force myself to check, what does the whole thing look like right now? Is this leg really, sitting just right, or is it really standing out and way too contrasty? Because if you look at any area long enough and really stare at it, you can see all kinds of value and contrast and all that. But it's important to think about how it relates to the whole thing. Am I accepting portfolio reviews? Not currently, no. No, I just get too many requests for things like that. Alright, I think I finally have to paint a face on this. Can't put it off forever. Am I using a Cintiq? Not currently. I'm painting on a Wacom right now. I started today working on a Cintiq though. So the drawing phase was done on one, but I find that I like painting better on a Wacom. It's just personal preference. Faces always look so creepy at first, before you like get them just right. At least they do for me. You go through some really, really ugly stages. Yeah, you're a bit late to the stream, but it's okay because I always am really terrible and don't announce things ahead of time. I think I just realized that I'd been, whatever reason, not streaming for so long, and then I realized today I was like, wait, I'm doing these studies and I don't really have anything else going on, and there's nothing preventing me from actually sitting down and doing one of these on stream. So it was all very last minute, like, oh, okay, I'll stream right now. So yeah, I'd like to be more organized, but I'm really not that organized as a person, so. I'm afraid my spontaneous streaming is probably going to keep happening. I'd like to have some scheduled ones, but yeah, realistically I am going to some degree, keep being spontaneous. I will hopefully not wait another month before streaming again. I don't know how that happened. Just had so much other stuff happening, which you wouldn't think, but somehow life finds a way of just filling up. I'm not going to go crazy with this face because it really isn't a portrait study, it is a figure study. I just want something kind of passable enough so that the face doesn't look completely out of place. I'm really excited to launch this brush pack though. I've been really happy with the brushes I've made in it. I haven't really shown off many of them. Most of them are more for doing my landscape stuff, but they're really nice for that. It's all I've been painting with recently, and I'm pretty happy with them. I think they've turned out very nice so far. Again, not looking to paint a super nice hand here, just enough like implied form and stuff that you don't think about it too much when you look at it. Not enough that it would actually look good close up, but at least the general idea of a hand. These eyes are too close together. I think that might be what's bothering me. There's always something like that that's really key that I always miss early on in a portrait. I always have to fix later on. It's part of the reason they go through that such severe ugly stage, is I'm missing some really crucial element, like in the proportions themselves, that causes everything to look off. It's working a bit better. Do I mostly use the same brush? Yeah, I've pretty much been using one brush for this whole painting since I got to the painting stage. Obviously using a different one in Clip Studio, but yeah, and it's a really good one, and I made it myself. And I'll probably do some dedicated streams for my brush pack when I do release it. I'm getting quite proud of the stuff I've made for it, so I think it'd be a lot of fun. Alright, I think I might be getting close to calling this kind of done for today. Yeah. Let's see here. I got a couple questions here. I'm not a beginner at drawing, but definitely not skilled. My goal is to be able to just draw from imagination. Can you recommend a course to really hone one's fundamentals? Drawing from imagination is very hard, just so you know, and it's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of fundamentals. I will plug my own course. It's called Art Camp. You can go to artcamp.com. You can also browse around this YouTube channel, and there's 3 free videos from it on here that will get you pretty far. The exercises in there are extremely good. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. I recommend it for fundamentals. That's kind of what it's all about, is studying those fundamentals. I think it's the most neglected thing about studying art, is that people want to skip to the tricks and how to make stuff look cool without really understanding the fundamentals first. So yeah, I think that about does it for today. I might do a little bit more tweaking on this off stream, depending on. Usually I like to give it a few minutes and like come back to it and see what it looks like. And sometimes glaring stuff will pop out to me of like, oh wow, that looks awful. So I might work on that. But yeah, I think that about calls it done on that. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got a little something out of it. And thanks for hanging out and asking questions and chilling out while I did some studying. So thanks again, and I will see you guys next time.